Welcome back, traders. It's been a couple of weeks since our last interview with Rob, and I hope that you're enjoying these candid interviews. And we want to continue with them. And we've also had a few Periscopes sessions, which were phenomenal, I believe. I actually think that those Periscopes are even better than these interviews. Rob gets into really, really good topics, and you can actually interact with him while he's sharing his wisdom. And anyway, let's continue our conversation, and welcome back, Rob.
Oh, thanks for having me, Vadim. Also, those Periscope interviews that we also put them on the YouTube channel, but those go off into a little bit more esoteric kind of subjects, metaphysical type of subjects related to manifestation, attracting what you want,
Mm-hmm.
and abundance related issues. Yeah, and so that's
Yeah.
kind of cool because all trading is a form of manifestation, right? You're
Mm-hmm.
manifesting abundance as a trader. That's your intent, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Yeah, so check those out, guys. They're also on the YouTube channel.
Let me ask you a question. Something that I've been struggling with over the years in trading personally. Having a position on and not being able to, you know, walk away, do anything, go eat, open the door, UPS guy, bathroom, anything. You just you just want to be there. You can't walk away.
Well, this is called an attachment issue.
Okay.
It's attachment. Right?
Attachment to
Yeah.
the outcome, or
Uh, well, some traders actually even get addicted to the activity of being, which of course, if you want to watch your productivity go to about zero, um, you know, and burn up tons of energy,
mm-hmm.
all you got to do is have attachment issues. So attachment um, is where you think, or at least in a lot of cases, but I'll just hypothesize. You think that you have some control over the outcome.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Or another one may be, and on any individual, you'd explore this and find out what the behavior is doing, because there's a limiting decision underneath that inability to leave your computer. But the other one that comes to mind, one is huge attachment related issues, control related issues. Mm-hmm. You have to control everything. So the limiting decision might reduce to something like, I can't trust what the world's doing to me, which is essentially a distrust of like divinity. You're like basically saying like, I don't trust the universe.
Mm-hmm.
Some of the times these topics are just so global, it's just like amazing. And the other one is that you're firing trades and you know it at some conscious level that you actually don't have a system and you really don't know. You don't have any clue what the outcome is going to be anyways. And if that's true, and your trading record is showing less than random performance, then you are actually manifesting something less than random. What do I mean by that? Well, random is 50%. It's like 50-50. Mm-hmm. Okay, so in any given time span, if you enter a trade, and this gets complicated, but from any given basic entry, either it's going to go your way or it's going to go against you. Okay? Mm-hmm. And so if you are managing to get into trades, and some traders are absolute masters at this. This is another topic having to do with manifestation, abundance, and other issues. If you enter a trade and it immediately always, with very few exceptions, immediately goes against you, mm-hmm. then you're actually inverse manifesting. You're figuring out a way to fire or enter your trade at the worst possible place.
Mm-hmm.
And so a lot about what trading is about, and this is another thing that makes trading kind of complicated. Okay, at one level, I'm saying to myself as a trader, and this is critical to your success. Okay, I'm saying to myself, say I'll use crude oil because I trade it every day. I'm saying to myself, this market is going to move 85 ticks, probably 85% of the time. It's going to move 85 ticks. If I manage to get in somewhere near the open, like what happened this morning, you get caught in an 85 tick trade. Okay, so at one level, I've got that perspective for an ultimate outcome. In other words, I'm seeing my future. I'm seeing the future when I enter the trade. Okay, that's a big difference between entering into a trade and hoping that it goes your way and not having a plan for the ultimate outcome of the trade. Because if you don't have a plan for the ultimate outcome of the trade, I'm going to tell you something. Your brain, the way it works, is your brain's going to fill that ultimate outcome in, and if you tend to be negative at all, it's going to fill it in with something that you don't want. And so that's why I said there's a limiting decision there, because when I enter a trade, I know that I'm expecting it to move 85 or 100 ticks or whatever. Now then, at the same time, at the point that I'm entering my trade, I'm asking myself whether or not that particular entry is likely to have price moving away from it. So it's almost like I'm taking a micro trade. I'm finding a place where that entry, where it's going to move away from me. That's what I want it to do. Everybody wants, I call it a 0T trade, 0 ticks. It goes 0 ticks against me,
Yes.
And so within that framework, that gives you some operating room to protect yourself. Okay. Then once you get into a trade that's moving away from your entry with any magnitude, it then makes it easy psychologically to let it run. But getting to the place psychologically where you're able to see both of these perspectives at the same time. Here's the one that I'm entering on, and then here's this larger scale thing that I'm playing inside of, and it's all happening in here simultaneously. This is what we teach in the oil trading room, this kind of stuff. But you could know both of those things and not be in alignment within yourself. You don't trust I don't trust myself. I don't believe that the universe is a good universe. Albert Einstein said this. Albert Einstein, wonderful quotes. One of my favorite things that Einstein said was, this might not be exact, but it's something. The gist of it is as follows. Said, the most important decision you will ever make is whether you believe that the universe is friendly or hostile. Because if you believe that the universe is hostile and you're engaging in an activity like trading where manifestation and state of mind are strongly related to your outcome, as opposed to, say, like getting a job and with a weekly paycheck or something, you're now entering two things: the realm of probabilities, and you're entering the realm of manifestation, where your mindset have a strong correlation to the outcomes that you'll achieve. So, but if you believe that the universe is hostile, your effort to become a trader is going to be absolutely futile because your belief is going to fill in with hostile. See, you have a belief, and deciding that the universe is hostile is a limiting belief because all you got to do is look outside. I mean, this is teeming with life. And it works. I mean, how many of the trees that you drive by on any given day are dead? Now, I know you're in Michigan, but even the trees that look like they're not alive are teeming with life. Just taking a little nap, right? So if your fundamental belief set is aligned with prosperity, and that you believe that the universe is a good place, and that there's infinity there, and all this kind of stuff, then even if you're screwing up the psychology that I'm talking about, your brain might fill it in with something good. So, all of us know somebody who's like this happy-go-lucky person. No matter what they do, just good stuff happens to them, right? We all know somebody like that. Well, what are they doing that you're not? Well, it's just this little belief, and they believe in good things, and so the universe fills it in as a good thing. And I was at a little concert down at the middle school this last week, and I don't know what it is. I always buy the little raffle tickets. It's like 10 for 5 of them or whatever. And so, I get up out of my chair. I got my raffle tickets. I get up out of my chair. The lady next to me, she goes, "You won something, didn't you?" And I go, "Yeah, I always win something at these things." Okay, it's not my fault, But no, I mean, I'm not thinking it's not my fault. When I'm putting that ticket in the thing, man, I'm like, I'm projecting my future, baby. Here, my camera lost me. Yeah. I'm projecting my future. When I put the ticket in the thing, I'm projecting my future and right into that little thing, right?
Do you see something or do you say something?
No, I see it. I can teach you how to do it. I mean, I teach my students this all the time. This is, level 1 manifestation. So, now here's the funny thing that I was going to tell you though. I'm on my way out and I go to her. I go, "I always win something at these things." And she goes, "I never win anything ever."
Yeah.
And I said, I don't remember the exact thing I said to her. I said, if you're saying that, it will absolutely be true.
Yes.
And I left her to it. I mean, really nice lady there, and her kid was there in the concert and stuff. But that's negative self-talk. Now, if that's going on in you at any level, here's what's going to happen. It's a karmic law. As ye believe, so shall it be done unto you. It's karmic law.
I mean, athletes know this really well.
Oh, totally, dude. Athletes, because with athletes, it's happening in the instant. Okay, so and that's another interesting point about this topic. Not only is that occurring, because I just described it with the trading. Not only is that occurring in the minutia of this little moment, it's occurring in the bigger one too, right? It's occurring in the bigger one. So I'm projecting a future at 2 levels, right?
Like in the now and in the future?
Yeah, I'm entering a trade that's going to move away from my entry, and it's going to move towards the ultimate goal. It's 2 levels, if not more. So we could cover basically how you manifest, but that should probably be a separate session because that's a huge topic.
Sure.
Yeah, it's how you understand time, and it's how you understand your future. Now, if you've got the negative self-talk going on, or any kind of beliefs that come into conflict with the future, I absolutely guarantee you I absolutely guarantee you that you can try to project any future you want. It won't work. You absolutely have to clear all of the negative stuff. You have to, and that can probably not be done on your own. It probably can't be done on your own. You need to get some help with it, because we can't see outside of our own little box that we draw around ourselves and that we live within. And so it takes somebody who has the skill set and who's has the right training to be able to see through your story, because you're going to tell the person's going to come in and they're going to start telling me a story, and then as I listen to the story, I'm going to go, okay, well, this is do you realize that you're telling me this? No, I didn't realize I was doing that. Are there other places in your life where you're doing this? Oh yeah, man, I do it on this and I do it on that. So like everywhere in your life you're doing this, right? And you're not even aware of the behavior. So how are you going to fix a behavior you're not even aware of? And so you go into the timeline and you actually delete these beliefs. Just delete them. It's powerful stuff. Amazing thing is, somebody carrying this kind of a belief around with them for 40 years, and you clear it out in 30 minutes. Gone.
That's nice.
What are you living that way for? What's anybody living that way for? Human change technologies change like cell phones. There have been just phenomenal advances in technology for achieving personal change. And so you don't, if life doesn't work, I got news for you. Life works. Life works, and if it's not working, you need to do something. I love it on Instagram. You see these little things that says, if you find yourself in hell, keep going. It said, if you find yourself in hell, there's some picture there of something, and keep going. Right. Exactly. What happens is people get caught in their own personal hell, and they stop.
And they just stay there.
This has been the next 70 years there. Your own personal hell. That's what you call it. You call it your own personal hell. Hell on earth, right?
Right.
And so that's what it is, and it's tragic, because it could have been some little thing your mom said to you or some teacher said to you that you kind of believe that the world's drawn that way, and you draw that little box around you, probably at some age when you didn't really have critical reasoning skills before the age of 8, and you spend the rest of your life in that box. It's like the sheep. They put the sheep in the pen, and if you remove the pen, after a while, the sheep will stay there. They don't need to be penned. They'll stay right there. Yeah. And humans do the same thing, big time. And like I said, it's tragic, because every one of us is here to manifest and have joy. That's my belief. That's a good belief to have. If that was entirely false, if the belief that everyone's here to manifest and experience joy, let's say that was entirely false, but I believed it with all the core of my being, wouldn't that be a better belief to have than the world is living hell? Right. What's living hell going to get you? Nothing. So you may as well be happy and manifest. And if you're a trader, that's what you need to do. So I would urge you to, if you have attachment issues to the screen, or you're not having trades that are going your way, your win percentage isn't what it should be, these kinds of things, you're probably battling a limiting decision. So that's what it is. Yeah. Awesome question, and a vast topic, of course.
Yeah. So let's talk about trading experience. Hours spent looking at charts versus how many trade setups that you take.
Okay. That question kind of comes in two parts. One part of it is a statistical question, excuse me, and the other is an experience question, which seem related, but I'm going to break it into two areas. Malcolm Gladwell, I don't remember which of his books, maybe Outliers. It takes 10,000 hours to get good at anything.
Must be tipping point.
Is it the tipping point? Okay, thank you. Both excellent books, by the way. Outliers and the tipping point. So, takes 10,000 hours to get good at anything. Well, that statement is made without regard to any appropriate instruction or catalyst, if you will, to accelerating the learning, right? So, under ideal circumstances, you may, and with a good mentor, you may be able to shorten that curve substantially. See, now when I came into trading, nobody helped me. Nobody helped me. My mom had passed away. My mom was an investor, I'd call her, not a trader. But I was basically tarred and feathered by the Wall Street in the beginning. And I spent every waking extra hour for at least 7 years. At least 7 years before I came up with one system that worked. And that system put me on my feet as a commodity trading advisor. Now, so if you've got a mentor, you can reduce that substantially. But to have the kind of, like when I see a chart, when I'm looking at a chart, I might see, I just see layers and layers of things. You put a chart up, you already know. You put up a chart, I could talk about it for hours. I could even talk about it for days. Well, how do you do that? Because you develop a language about trading and price movement. Because what you're really looking at is you're looking at some kind of squiggly line. You're looking at a graphic representation of human behavior. Okay. So now, the next part of your question had to do with, or the next part of my answer. This camera's doing nuts things today. I'm going to move that a little bit. The next part of my answer has to do with the sample size. Okay. So if you're trading, if you want to learn to really trade, you want to trade where frequency is relatively high because it reduces your learning curve. I'll give you an example. The very first system that I ever developed that I made millions on traded, I think 2.5 to 3 times a month.
Oh, that's it?
Maybe 4 times a month. So, if I have now anybody who's ever taken Statistics 101 knows that you need a sample size of an absolute minimum of 20 to 30 to know that something works. And that's presuming that the variance isn't crazy. Okay? In other words, if the equity is like this, just this tiny little fluctuation, it's almost like a straight line, then the projection of that into the future is much more reliable than would be one that goes like this.
Yeah.
So that's another factor that comes into play. But so if I'm trading in an environment that gives me, say, 6 opportunities per day to to refine my skill, then that learning curve of 10,000 hours could get reduced down to, a small fraction of that.
Mm-hmm.
Particularly if you're being guided at what to look for.
Mm-hmm.
But if you are trading something that trades, 36 to 48 times a year with some reasonable level of variance, you could actually have a system that was a losing system. And if you look at like Monte Carlo distributions, you could actually have a system that's a losing system and be 100 trades into it on a system that has the stat that I just suggested. You could be 100 trades into it and the system could just flop on you.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't understand how the statistics work with distributions like that. Now, it's not entirely likely that you would start at that time, but some people who have developed their own systems find that they very consistently perfectly start trading a system that doesn't work. But
Yes.
that relates to system design and understanding what works statistically, and really good design and stuff like that, that could be a whole nother 5 interviews or something. But so if your trading frequency is relatively high, you can cut the learning curve down to a relatively short span of time. And on the flip side, you could have a system that trades less often, bigger trades, and you could actually trade it for years before you are able to fully determine that what you're doing doesn't work. Now, in terms of learning, if you look at learning theory, not only is it important that if you're really going to learn and cut that 10,000 hours down, it's really important that you have feedback that is, one, immediate. Because if the feedback's coming while your neural circuitry is still lit up,
Mm-hmm.
that's a big difference between the learning coming in when 20 days after the fact, because you're not going to have the insight then. When that neural circuitry is lit up and somebody says to you, this is what happened right there,
Mm-hmm.
then the learning can be profound and immediate and fast, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so the whole concept of learning becomes very important. I'm going to throw one other thing in because I'm done with the subject really, but one other thing that's absolutely crucial, and I'm a bass player, all right?
Mm-hmm.
I play for hobby these days. I played professionally for a number of years when I got out of the Navy, but I studied bass with a really amazing. We have some amazing musicians here in San Diego. Gunnar Biggs, bass player. I took lessons with him for a year to really refine my skill as a reading music for bass. And Gunnar's a pretty intellectual guy, and he told me one day, because we're studying Bach, cello suites, okay? And he told me, he said, when you're under stress, which is something that a performer has to deal with, and which is certainly something that a trader has to deal with. When you come under stress, your ability to function will always reduce to its smallest level. Okay, so you could have a lot of knowledge, but when you come under stress, your body goes into a fight or flight response and you become irrational and you're not actually able to access the information that you need to trade successfully or intelligently. On the flip side of that, somebody who has rehearsed these things large numbers of times and knows them to the core of their being, like an athlete, knows how to, score or take their shot or whatever, then when you come under stress, you're able to perform.
Mm-hmm.
So you could actually be pretty good at it, but because of the way you're perceiving your environment, you're allowing some fear to come into it, and that prevents you from performing at the level that you know works. And so as a performer, you've got to plow through that.
Mm-hmm.
Performer being a trader or a athlete or a musician or whatever, that you're always going to fall to your lowest link. And musicians know this really well. Traders know it really well too. They're like, well, yeah, man, I can identify that pattern, no problem. But when I have to do it live, I got a problem. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Musicians know it too. Man, when I'm practicing in my bedroom,
Mm-hmm.
man, I can't keep my bass from lighting on fire.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm being a little funny there. I'm referring to Weird Al,
Oh.
that Michael Jackson guitar solo that Eddie Van Halen did for free.
Uh-huh.
But anyways, you can play, you can play in your own little world just, amazingly.
Mm-hmm.
And then when it comes under stress, you could become completely dysfunctional or somewhere in between, And so that's an important part of the transition that goes from being able to read charts as a practice to doing it in real time. And then the third level of it, of course, is being able not only to do it in real time, but to anticipate the outcome,
Mm-hmm.
which again goes back to the first thing that we covered, manifestation or projecting your future. Yeah. And it all comes together in that point. When those things all come together, you're a master trader.
Mm.
You're undeniably a master trader. Even though it's still going to be a work in progress. There's no finality in any of this stuff. The first chair violinist at the New York Philharmonic is practicing 8 hours a day.
Right.
And that violinist knows if he takes 2 days off, he might be able to get away with taking a day off. But if he takes 2 days off of practicing, he knows. He's like, wow, my skill level dropped. That's how attuned people can be to their craft.
Yeah, I notice it in golf too. If I don't play for 2 days,
Totally.
it's like
2 days.
so fast.
Yeah, 2 days. Now, on the flip side of that, if you're going through a plateau, that's another thing that happens to traders or people.
Mm-hmm.
You go through areas where you're pushing for the improvement, but it doesn't come.
Mm-hmm.
And you may actually, because what happens is you start getting in a fight with yourself about your progress.
Mm.
And once you're fighting, you're in trouble because then you're not letting that natural flow come through. That you can't be in the zone when you're fighting.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's in some cases, if you took like 10 days off and then reset the engine, that you could actually have a jump out of your plateau from having taken time off. But then you'll have to. It'll be a week to get it all restarted again and get back in your zone again and everything else. But yeah, that subject from golf, that's right on, man. That's right.
Yeah. So, what is stress for traders? Why do they feel stress when they're trading?
Could be a limiting decision about money.
Mm-hmm.
Could be a limiting decision about abundance. Could be they believe good things can't happen to me. They believe I'm stupid. Any of these kinds of things. And so they, as soon as they click the button, they go into a panic attack.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now,
it's mostly fear-driven.
Yeah. Fear of the unknown. If you're not comfortable with the unknown, and you're a trader, you're in the wrong area. You got to be comfortable just like going in there and it's an interesting place psychologically to be. And most people go through their whole lives and don't deal with stuff like what we do as traders.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they just go to their job and they get the check, and everything's cool. But a trader, no, it's a whole different ballgame, man. I mean, the trade sets up and manifests, and it's always a little different, and so it's not like solving a math problem. Oh
Mm-hmm.
yeah, if you go through these steps, A, B, C, D, E,
Mm-hmm.
and you practice that a few times, you'll be able to do the quadratic every time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Guess what? You go through A, B, C, D, E, and it's the absolute correct solution for the situation, and you still lose.
Mm-hmm.
And then you've got to go, well, those a loser, so what?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't mean a darn thing. Right?
Yeah, and traders take it personally.
That's another thing, is taking things personally. Taking things personally.
The outcomes of each trade.
Mm-hmm. When the real thing that matters is the large-scale overall outcome. That's another place where traders get trapped, is that there's virtually no relationship between the present trade and the larger picture.
Mm-hmm.
Of what the result's going to be in the grand scheme of things.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because this trade always has a 50-50 chance of working.
Well, I don't know. You can get them up into the 80s and
well, that's overall. But when you're in this particular trade, right now,
it means nothing. It just virtually means nothing.
It's completely random.
Yeah. And so now, are you still working to project the future and all that? You bet.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you bet. But and you get pretty good at it with practice. But if you get stopped, you have virtually no physiological response to it at all. It means nothing.
Mm-hmm.
So what? You got stopped out. All right. Well, if you're having a strong physiological response, fight or flight related kind of response that might feel like panic attack or anxiety or these kinds of things, then there's absolutely no doubt about it that you have a limiting decision that's preventing you from trading successfully, and you need to call Uncle Rob.
Mm-hmm.
Because I work with these things with traders, but and usually, it's like a 4-hour session minimum to. It's a 4-hour minimum to work with that, and it's still going to be a work in progress after that, because it always is. I've been doing this for 25 years as a work in progress.
How often should traders evaluate the performance?
Well, like with my bond program, I evaluate it annually.
Okay.
I evaluate that annually. I get the stats all together in late December, early January, and I look at the whole program and I ask myself what kinds of activities I was engaging in, and what the ultimate outcome was, and whether and how I could have improved it. And you have to be frighteningly honest with yourself, brutally honest with yourself when it comes to this kind of stuff. If you're an intraday trader, I would review my trades every single day. Every single day. And I'd keep stats on them too, particularly if you're new at it. I got guys that keep stats on everything. They know stats on everything. They journal every little detail of every trade.
So daily performance, weekly, monthly, yearly. But don't panic over each trade.
Each trade is meaningless.
Right.
Unless you don't have a method, in which case each trade is very meaningful. It's very meaningful because, it's going to be a loss. If you don't have a method, and you're just firing, here's an interesting thought for our listeners, and I would beckon you to give this some consideration. And this doesn't just apply to trading. What humans do is they take verbs and they convert them into nouns.
Mm-hmm.
The word trading itself is a noun,
Mm-hmm.
right? It's a noun. But trading isn't a noun. Nouns are fixed. Nouns are fixed. But trading is a process.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're even using the word trading at all, at some level in your brain, you believe it's this fixed thing, even though it's got an ing on the end of it.
Mm-hmm.
See,
Right.
trade is a verb. All right, it's an action. It's an activity. And so it's always changing. Activity is always changing. And so I urge you to be very cautious about the words that you convert into nouns in your life. Because when you hold something as fixed, you may be preventing yourself from learning anything about what you're doing with it. You think of it as this fixed thing.
Mm-hmm.
And then it becomes a belief system. Now, if your belief is that it's always changing, then there might be other beliefs that cluster around that main core belief, that you're in a state of flux. Who was it? Plato said everything's in a state of flux, change.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
In fact, you won't perceive anything if there's not change, so the whole argument is absurd. You're trading and you're engaging in this activity that at the core belief must be that everything's changing. And anyways, I would urge you to be aware of where you're holding things as a fixed idea in your mind when they're actually a process. Mm-hmm. This happens in medicine too. Mm-hmm. That people say, I have, and then you fill it in with some disease. Mm-hmm. I have, I possess this thing. Well, what's really quite fascinating is, let's take cancer for example. Everybody gets cancer all the time. Mm-hmm. Everybody gets cancer. There have been, 1 trillion cases of cancer have occurred, in the last year. Mm. But your body heals it. That case never goes to a doctor. Mm-hmm. It never goes to a doctor. Your body healing cancer all the time. Why? Well, cancer is a process, and healing is a process. Mm-hmm. Right? Mm-hmm. The minute you lock that, cancer is a verb. It should be a verb. Right? Mm. To cancer. Mm-hmm. Okay. So here's the thing. Healing, to heal, is a verb. Mm-hmm. Okay. So the minute that you put a label on the disease, I should call it dis-ease. Mm-hmm. You have dis-ease in trading too. That's what we're talking about. I'm describing it from a medical standpoint, using medical kind of things as a metaphor for trading. You have dis-ease. And how do you fix dis-ease? Well, you heal, right? Mm-hmm. Through the process. But and so it's actually doing a disservice to somebody to put a label on something that is occurring in their life that is actually a process. Because we just said, if you find yourself in hell, don't stop. Mm-hmm. Right. If you find yourself in a place in the process that isn't working, mm-hmm. keep driving forward. Mm-hmm. If something doesn't work, anything different is better, right? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So if you find yourself in a place that doesn't work, try something. Throw a bone in it. It's just like, take a shot at something else. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So how about just the wildest scheme that you can possibly come up with and do it?
Yeah, it doesn't cost anything to
go if it's
all
already is not working. Mm-hmm.
Well,
now,
just
I'm not
like
suggesting that with your trading. You really need to
go all in on trading.
Yeah, all in, baby.
Go all in.
Bet the farm.
I'm manifesting.
Here's the thing. Your brain doesn't allow you to make change too fast. It only allows you to do it as these little layers off of the onion, peeling the little layers off the onion, and then you see the world in a little different way. Mm-hmm. And then because you saw the world in a little different way, you can peel another one off, and then you can see it in a little different way. But what the world might look to you, look like to you after, 5 peels of onion layers might be so foreign to what other people might be seeing. Your whole reality doesn't look anything like it did a year ago. It doesn't look anything like it did a year ago. It's just like massive transformation has taken place. Now here's the interesting thing about the human brain that leads to things like complete denial. When you change, when they peel that little layer off of the onion, when you change, what actually happens is your brain, the neurology in your brain completely rewires to the new belief. It completely rewires to the new belief. So you actually won't even remember what you had believed before. I know this sounds absolutely insane. And if you want to talk about the implications for that in a court of law with a witness, stuff like this, the implications are staggering. But this is neurological fact. Every time you learn something, your brain rewires. This is what we do this is how we change people in 30 minutes on a belief they've had for 40 years. It rewires their neurology. Boom, like that. You can literally feel it rewiring. Your whole, it's just like you have a session and some profound thing happens in the session and you're completely different. Sometimes you're so numbed by it, you feel different for weeks. Yeah, you just feel entirely different for weeks. It's like the whole world is different. And so, but it usually just come in little layers at a time, and you have these transformations. And then, another metaphor I use for this, and we've really gone on a long journey on this subject. I'll say one more thing, because everybody knows what this is. You read a book. Okay, you read a book. You're like, okay, cool, man, I got this or so out of it. I'm not talking about a Harlequin romance novel. You read the book, you put it on the shelf, and you're like, okay, I learned something there. That's cool, right? And then 3 years later, Sunday afternoon, nothing's going on. You pull the book off the shelf again, you read it again, and you're like, wow, that's amazing. What you get out of the book is entirely different than what you got the first time. Why is it? Because you're 27 peels of onion later, and your consciousness is entirely different. The only thing you can get out of that book, or the only thing you can get off of a chart, or the only thing that you can get out of life, is your own beliefs staring you right back in the face.
So you get out of it what you already believe?
You get out of it what you are.
Okay.
Yeah. You can't get something, if I say something to you in this session, how could I possibly have said it if I didn't understand it? If I didn't know what it was? When I say to you, you click the button and have a panic attack, I know what that is. I've been there, done that, baby. And so if you haven't done certain things, I could say something to you that 47 people in the room totally get it, and 47 other people don't, because their consciousness isn't in a place that makes it possible for them to get it. It's not possible for them to get it because it's not part of their consciousness. And so they actually, if they want to learn, they actually have to put themselves in the environment until they have a breakthrough to learn. It's kind of tragic, but you can't understand anything that you don't already know.
Right. Well, that's why so-called failures are so good for you.
Yeah. We literally fail our way to success. Because you gotta fail, and then you go, oh, wait a minute, man. It's the transformation actually happens in the failure. Because you go, wait a minute. If I had done that a little different, I bet it would have worked.
So that's when you learn. Yeah,
and if you stay there at the mistake, then you're in hell, right?
Right.
You stopped in hell.
Yeah, you stopped.
Yeah, exactly. So, great topic.
Yeah. Good.
Yeah, because we're really talking about life, right? This has gone way beyond trading.
Oh yeah, I mean it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's life, absolute transformation of consciousness in life.
Well, yeah, just like in trading, I mean, the only way to lose really is if you quit. If you don't quit and you keep going, your chances of success are exponentially higher.
Well, you can't win if you're not playing, right?
Right.
You got to go to bat.
Right.
Yeah, you got to go to bat. So.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Rob, again for the interview, and please tell us about some of the updates on what are you working on and what can we expect from you in the future.
Oh, right now?
Sure.
Oh, one thing that's always happening, the Axiom Bond program is just phenomenal. The performance has been phenomenal.
I can attest to that.
And boy, let me look at some of these topics today. You know, I decided, you know, it's kind of interesting because in my training room, I have different subjects that I talk about each day. And
do you write these before or after?
Well, if I have a thought before, I write it down, but a lot of times the thing just comes to me from inspiration. And so most of the time when I'm speaking, I'm just speaking from inspiration. I don't really plan it, and I like it that way, because then what's coming out of my head is inspired for that particular moment. So like if you ask me a question, I'm connecting with, you know, that moment. There's not really something planned about it. The thing that's been in the highest level of development lately is this whole notion of where traders get trapped in the price action and how to exploit that. And we've had just gigantic leaps in our ability to identify this lately. Some of these trades being close to 100% win rate, because this is what markets really do, and this ties back to everything that we've talked about today. Is psychologically, collectively, as the herd, you're going to probabilities are you're going to get lured into these little traps, and that's what markets do. And if you know what the traps are, then you can trade contrary to your natural herd or animal instinct. You actually have to trade the opposite of how you feel at some level. Now, after a while, after you've been doing it for a long time, you don't feel that way anymore. You just realize it for what it is. And so that's what we're working on. We have a S&P program that we're doing as a auto trade program.
Oh, okay.
And that should be going live next week, at least tentatively. That's a big deal. We have another trading room that we have coming out in the stock index. That is a big deal. A lot of work and research has gone behind that to make sure that it's just absolutely the best it can be. Those are the main things for trading. I am currently working on some things for the counseling work that I do with traders and people in general. Some of these life-related issues and clearing limiting decisions and negative emotions and things of that nature. That's in progress. And I'm also advancing myself with higher level training all the time. I'm always doing that. And so plate's pretty full, but a lot of cool things are manifesting out of it to look forward to. And so stay tuned.
Yes.
Don't touch that dial. We'll be right back after this commercial message from our sponsors.
Brought to you by oiltradingroom.com.
Yeah, there you go. So, all right, guys. Thanks for coming in today. But Ian, thanks again for having me, and thanks for doing this interview series. It's just awesome.
Thank you, Rob. We'll talk to you next week.
All right, man.
Bye-bye.